Hey guys, it's TheFrXion here, TigerTag12, however you gonna call me, I don't really care, and welcome back to World Tanks Test Server 1.5. Today we're trying out the Type 5 Heavy, since I have seen a lot of memes depicting this vehicle now as dead. Now I want to paint a picture of the current situation for myself. I want to know how this tank is going to be now with the nerfs. We did talk about it in the previous video real quickly, but I think I can just pick up on it once again and get you guys through the main changes. So basically, armor-wise, this vehicle is not going to change at all. This vehicle is one of the reasons why people spam gold like crazy, because with the introduction of even more super heavy tanks that are able to bounce shells from any direction if they are non-heat or premium, yeah, it really does show that Wargaming have kind of done a bit of a clownish job with their balancing when they first released this vehicle. So, if we have a little backstory about the Japanese heavy tanks, you'll notice that when they released the Japanese heavy tank line, somewhere I think around 2015, no one was really that excited to play a Type 4 or Type 5 heavy when they came out. What was the reason for that large dislike towards these vehicle? Well, it is pretty damn simple. When they first came out, they had this 14 centimeter gun. They had good armor, yes, but on the other hand, they had a pretty bad gun. This gun now has been buffed by a little bit. It has gotten a little bit of a AP pen buff and I think APCR pen buff, but other than that, it hasn't changed that much. But they decided that this vehicle needed something new. It needed something revolutionary, and that is when they released the 15 centimeter gun, which based solely upon high explosive shells and is supposed to be a naval cannon. It's like, yeah, I don't know, it's supposed to be a ship cannon, although even ships also fired AP shells, or they had at least a variety of shell types that they could fire. And this one was based upon high explosive. When it first came out, and they needed 2 years to fix this now. It's 2019. When it first came out, no, I think it came out in 2016, I'm not sure, sorry. When it first came out, it had 1,400 alpha damage on the premium shell. The standard shell used to do 1,100, but the premium shell did 300 damage more, 1,400. Now the pen wasn't that great. I think it used to be the same, 75 millimeters of penetration. But when you're this large and you have such a great armor profile where basically everyone is going to be bouncing off except they hit your weak spot or they are loading premium from the get-go and they're tier 10. If you're a tier 9 or a tier 8 and you're trying to get through this tank with premium, you're gonna have a hard time. Because basically it's just so freaking strong at the front, and okay, it doesn't bother me that much, but the combination of the armor and the gun made it a huge brain-dead tank that anyone could play. And obviously the people, since they added the vehicle into the game, people started to play this vehicle more and more, and it was abused in a sense that basically everyone was just driving around in such a vehicle, spamming high explosive in your face while, you know, not taking a lot of damage. And this was a vehicle that was forgiving so many errors. It was such a forgiving tank. You could do so many dumb moves, so many dumb plays, and what ended up happening was basically you survived and knocked out maybe 3 tanks that were trying to kill you and weren't able to do that. Well, those times seem to be over. At least in the sense of being able to dish out 600 to 700 damage shots into someone's face without penetrating them. Now the shells have 900 alpha damage, and they are adding a high explosive shell base type that seems very similar to the HES shells that the British carried. 192 millimeters of penetration, that is going to be enough to go through some or a lot of medium tanks on their side, or heavy tanks on their side or rear, and some tank destroyers through their front, like the Grille 15. But I'd say without further ado, let's take a look, play some games, and see how well this tank does fare now. I have a loadout of 20 premium shells and 20 standard shells, and I'm going to be playing this vehicle just like any other World of Tanks player would be playing this tank, and let's just go right out there. I do not think that they have patched the premium shells on this patch yet, since the premium shell changes are still in a very early stage. They're they used to say that the Type 5 Heavy was going to get a premium shell nerf of about almost 50% damage reduction, which would have been 700 damage instead of the 1400 alpha damage. Now we have 900 alpha damage. They probably thought that 750 would have been a too drastic change, because they still want you to be able to play the derp gun at tier 10, which I don't really see the point in, because I think that derp guns at tier 10, even everything starting off tier 5, shouldn't have a derp gun, because it just doesn't really fit into the scheme of World of Tanks at that moment in the meta. But yeah, that's their decision, and you can see that they're probably not going to be budging from that, and maybe it's going to be working out this time around. So we're going to be loading a high explosive premium shell first, because I want to have the ultimate Type 5 Heavy experience. And you could see the gun pressure on this thing is actually not too bad on the sides. I didn't expect this vehicle to have such good gun pressure. Damn. Yeah, I fought a lot of battles against the Type 5s in my heavy tanks, medium tanks, and tank destroyers. And usually I was able to go through them if I was loading heat. But they're the one reason why I started to load premium shells from the get-go when I am facing tier 10 super heavy tanks, or when at least when I see a Type 5 Heavy that is not on the side, or where I have the rear armor of the vehicle, I usually do tend to immediately load premium shells. And even then I have some very, very tough situations, tough time to get through the frontal part of their armor. Basically what I've learned is that the viewport and the machine gun port right there are the weakest armor ports on this vehicle, or structures. If you angle the vehicle a little bit too much, the cheeks are a weak spot. But yeah, if you don't have over 250 millimeters of penetration, which, let's face it, not all of the heavy tanks have, at tier 10 or tier 9, you're not going to be able to penetrate this vehicle. So our first shot on the Object 705A, a very heavily armored vehicle, managed to do just about 100 and I'm not even sure, 187 damage. We just splashed underneath him and took him out of the game. But yeah, we probably hit the tracks first, so that absorbed quite a lot of damage. But that is a drastic change from what I'm used to when I'm playing against the Type 5 Heavy. And you can see right now we're doing like 300 damage to a Super Conqueror at its front. Now it does look like that the alpha damage certainly has been reduced. I think we did manage to hit that Type 4, no, E4. Not sure how much damage we did. Now keep in mind, with the 192 millimeters of penetration, we're going to be able to penetrate some of these tanks in their weak spots, but since this is basically a long-range engagement, I'm going to be changing over to high explosive shells that are non-premium, because I don't really see the point in spamming the premium shells at this distance while not being able to actually penetrate those vehicles. I've actually never played any of the types before, not even on the test server. They didn't really interest me that much. But I have to be honest, like the traverse speed and the mobility of this vehicle, it doesn't seem to be a super heavy tank as far as I kind of see right here. It seems more on the edge of a heavy tank that is a little bit more, I don't know, sluggish. But other than that, I mean, the traverse speed is not too bad. It certainly is not on par with a medium tank or anything like that. But I thought it had a lot worse traverse speed like the mouse. But this is a pleasant surprise. But yeah, this is just the first game. We're going to have to see how well we're going to be doing with this gun. We did manage to bounce quite a few shells. That is basically, that's no surprise on this vehicle, since it is basically a sponge. But it would definitely alleviate some of the pain that you have to go up, or that you have to deal with when you're going up against this vehicle right here. Right there we spot the FV4005. That one we probably could have penetrated as well. If you're not constantly getting 600, 700 damage boards thrown in your face, I'd much rather like 87 HP worth of damage. No, I actually did not manage to hit that object 268, unfortunately, right there. But he did bounce off us as well. So we're gonna try to go with a direct hit. We didn't even hit the vehicle. Now we're going to be moving forward. So now we have the standard high explosive shell, 75 millimeters of penetration. It's not a lot, but at theory it would work really nice. That's how the AMX, I'm not even sure, the EFL, EVR really does work the best. 240 HP worth of damage. Yeah. To be fair, I do now understand some of the points that people have made in the memes, where they're depicting this vehicle as a dead tank now. This is something that wargaming is very well known for, releasing very powerful or overpowered vehicles, such as the Waffenträger of E100 back in the days, and then basically just cutting them out of the game because they were overpowered, and they were overpowered from the get-go because they released them in that stage, and then they kind of nerfed them or just completely deleted them from the game. And obviously the people who have grinded their way into getting the vehicle that was so good at that time previously and now is not as good anymore, or maybe worse than it has ever been before, they kind of feel cheated. I do understand that sentiment. It is obviously, I'm not blaming the players. Oh my god. I'm blaming wargaming for releasing vehicles in a horrendous state from the beginning. But they have to nerf them, yes. So this game was not very spectacular in any kind of sense. That is why we're going to be playing another game just in a second, because we weren't really that able to utilize this gun, and I want to try it out some more and see if the second game actually is going to be just as the first game was. Because if the second game was like this game, where I basically only did like max damage 300 something to the object 268, well, in that case, this vehicle certainly is going to be buffed or nerfed in quite a large way. we obviously still have the option of using the 14 centimeter gun, which still does about 600 damage with the standard AP and APCR shell. But yeah, certainly the most important part, which was the high explosive based gun, has been nerfed by quite a bit. So let's see and figure out if it actually is really that bad as they're portraying right here, or if I was just having some bad luck in that game. Okay, we're going into the city. We're going to do an old school city push, and we're going to be looking for some damage. I'm not sure what would happen if I would run into the Type 5 Heavy, which probably will be the case. I have the feeling that it will not end well, because he's going to be running the high explosive gun, probably trying it out. I'm running the high explosive gun. Now it doesn't do 1400 damage anymore, and previously when Type 5 versus Type 5 was going up against each other, when two of them would be facing a duel to the death, what ended up happening was they were like putting 300 damage on their health, because basically they had massive amounts of armor, and the 1400 alpha damage didn't really matter because they just had so much armor. Now it's going to be even worse. It's going to be like, I don't know, 150 damage, maybe even less. We're going to see, because we have lost about 500 of our alpha damage on premium and non-premium shell. And yeah, that certainly is going to be a bit of a hindrance of fighting against those super heavy tanks. Maybe it's not a good option anymore to pick the high explosive base gun against other tier 10 targets. So maybe you have to stick to the 14 centimeter gun, which will bring us back to the day where Wargaming decided to not run that gun, because wow, 343 damage from a direct hit on the 1-2-1. Okay, it does look like that last game was not an error, and this vehicle really was nerfed. So this is going to be an interesting test now. It's going to be Type 5 versus Type 5. 52 damage! Just as I predicted. Yes, this is... wow. Yeah, this is... I'm speechless. This is... from the... from the basis of coming from 1400 alpha damage, where this vehicle was just basically slugging shells into your face and hurting everyone. 112. All of a sudden now you're only doing about 900 alpha damage, but you have 192 millimeters of penetration with the premium high explosive shell, which is going to allow you to actually penetrate the Super Conqueror on its lower plate, and we're going to try to do it again. Unfortunately, this time around we do splash off its upper plate, probably. But you can still see the armor on this vehicle hasn't changed at all, so you're still going to be able to bounce. But wow, this is definitely a very surprising change on Wargaming side. At 192 millimeters of penetration, well, right there we weren't able to go through the 1-2-1's side armor because our shell was caught in the tracks of the vehicle. But we did manage to penetrate the Super Conqueror, and we did manage to penetrate the 1-3. Like, for me, as a non-Type 5 heavy driver, I'm very pleased by the change that I'm seeing right here. you're still going to be able to do the damage against vehicles, you know, that are less armored than you and have some weak spots, or even when you get their side armor, you're going to be able to still deal some damage if you're running the high explosive premium shell, which probably a lot of people will still be using. 192 millimeters of pen, but as you saw there previously, the standard high explosive shell, which people didn't really use previously anyhow, we weren't really able to do a lot of damage there against okay, he drove right into the rock right there. We weren't able to do a lot of damage against those heavy tanks from the front, even a medium tank. It is kind of scary. I mean, I have asked for this nerf for quite a while, probably at least 2 years now. As soon as they released the gun, I was really unhappy with the state that the game was in at tier 10. I wasn't really that much a fan of tier 10 gameplay, so I decided to just quit tier 10 basically for a while and just play tier 9s and tier 8s. You still got quite a few tier 10 games, but at least at tier 9 and tier 8 you will be facing tier 9s and tier 8s a lot more frequently, and you didn't have to face a type 5 heavy, at least. Well, yeah, okay, you still had to face a type 4, but I thought that was the lesser evil, because the type 5 does get like an armor buff that the type 4 didn't have previously. Okay, this is weird, because I think this change was necessary. Maybe they have gone a little bit overboard. Well, at the same time, 192 millimeters of pen, you're still going to be able to do some damage, just you have to penetrate the tanks from now on. Just like any other tank that has to do damage with high explosive shells by penning at other vehicles. And I think this change is going to be good for the game overall. The Type 5 drivers are going to hate it, they're going to be moaning about it, and they will probably not want to play the game that much anymore, or maybe not at all. Especially the people that were just driving Type 5s, and he drove right in front of him again. You know, who were just driving the Type 5 primarily as their main vehicle. They're going to be looking down the drain. This is already the second iteration of the test server, so I'm not sure if they're going to be changing anything drastic about this. And yeah, I think the Type 5 is another one of those examples that just is going to get, you know, put into the book. No longer one of the most competitive, one of the worst vehicles in the game. It's just going to be mediocre from now on. And I do kind of like the fact. It does suck for all the players who have actually worked up on the way to the Type 5 heavy, such as myself. I wanted to try out the Type 5 and the Type 4, so I went down the OHO line, and then they announced the nerfs that were going to happen, and since then I haven't really played my OHO that much, and we're going to be seeing how the Type 5 heavy is going to be like. Now, we haven't tested the 14 centimeter gun, so I can't really say that much about it, but it is a very interesting change that is coming. So I hope you guys did enjoy this video, and I would love to hear your guys' opinion. What do you think of the Type 5 heavy and the Type 4 heavy changes? Do you like them? Are you really upset because these were your tanks that you unlocked and now they're doing the same thing over again as they did with other vehicles, the Grille, the Batchat, the T57, the T125, which got nerf buffed, and all that kind of stuff. They just can't seem to get it right with the balancing act, because they're constantly adding a new vehicle, and it kind of does change the meta. But a few of those vehicles that never get like addressed in those patches are Soviet made. For example, the Object 430U. For example, the Object 268 version 4. Yeah. Go figure, right? Go figure. Yeah. So I hope you guys did like this video. I'd love to hear your guys' opinion, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.